The blazing fire left a cold trail for years, a triple homicide, and no suspects. After just a little digging, it was clear to investigators that the real target of the homicide was 18-year-old Becky Friedley.
They put Becky in a wheelbarrow, they poured accelerant on her, and they lit her on fire. And they left her there posed to send a message to everybody around there that responded that they committed this crime.
There's no question about that?
There's no question about it.
But who would want the beloved teen dead so badly?
It took me all but 30 minutes. I knew almost instantly. As soon as I found out that it was a homicide, I knew that Robert was involved.
She's talking about Robert Pape, the boy Becky dated in high school.
Waiting for my precious boyfriend.
Say hi, Robert.
Hi, guys.
She was very smitten over him. She loved his personality, and she just fell for him very fast. For almost a year, they had a great relationship.
Robert got Becky a corsage.
But like a lot of high school relationships, this one ended after graduation. But was it a clean break?
It didn't seem that Robert accepted my sister moving on. He seemed to be possessive. There was a lot of weird phone calls and a lot of things where he would, say that, no one else can have you, or, you're mine, and he would be jealous.
And that's not all. So something very important happened here. What was that?
Well, the day before the triple homicide, Becky worked at Denny's here as a waitress. At some point during that day, Robert Pape came down to Denny's and had a very loud verbal one-way exchange with Becky, very heated. He was very angry about something.
Becky's cousin Daniela says Becky called her on her way home that night and told her all about the confrontation. She also said Robert wasn't alone.
She had told me his military friend, and Robert came in. He was harassing her in the restaurant.
That friend was Christian Smith.
Christian was very good friends in high school with Robert Pape. And after speaking to the family members and friends, it was very obvious that when they were apart, they behaved better. But when they were together, their behavior was off the charts.
According to Daniela, Becky had agreed to go hiking with the boys the next night in an apparent attempt to get them to leave. It was the last conversation she had with her cousin. And then you lost the cells.
And then she lost service.
You lost the cell signal.
Yeah.
It seemed like such critical information, so then why wasn't anyone acting on it?
I told my mom right away, that same night, and she told the investigators, but I was never interviewed for 7 years. No one ever contacted me.
That's where Luis Bolaños really comes in.
And right about here is where Becky lost cell phone connection in her phone call with her cousin Danielle, discussing the incident at Denny's.
After so many years without answers, Luis decided to take on the case pro bono.
We came up with a game plan, what we wanted to accomplish and highlight. And we knew that we needed to get this story out to the public immediately and share some of the brutal facts.
One of the first things he did was put up billboards, shockingly graphic images of Becky before and after the crime. Was this about getting more information, or was it about putting pressure on the suspects?
All the above.
But after so much time had passed, would it even work?
We ended up getting over 3,000 phone calls.
3,000 phone calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one of those tips came from none other than Becky's close cousin, Daniela Zermeño.
And you said the name Robert, and was Robert alone at Denny's, or was somebody with him?
No, I am sure that Robert was with a friend at Denny's.
In this taped interview with Luis, Daniela finally gets to tell her story about the last phone call with Becky and the explosive confrontation that night before she was killed.
He spoke with me on my conversation with Becky and then asked me to pass that along to the investigators. And at that point is when it started to kick up again. And it just kind of put new life into the investigation.
And Lewis is surprised by how little had been done previously.
When we became involved, Pape and Smith were interviewed, but very briefly. And at some point in their interviews, both had declined to speak any further. They wanted their attorneys.
Years earlier, both Christian and Robert apparently told officers that they had canceled the hike with Becky and were nowhere near her home when the crime occurred. But Lewis had a theory about that.
They lied about their whereabouts. Their phones, their cell phones, both shut off during the same time period where their whereabouts can't be explained. The cell phone pings show them going up Highway 74. They claimed that they never went up that way, that they were going to church.
They were going to church at night?
Yeah.
So their alibis did not hold up?
No, the alibis didn't hold up.
And there was more, much more.
At the scene, about 70 yards north of the residence, someone dropped a business card. And on that business card, they found Christian Smith's DNA.
Without being able to prove how the card actually got to the scene, prosecutors never made an arrest. But Lewis was more convinced than ever that he was on the right track, and he was about to turn the pressure way up. Next.
If you can come along and do a reenactment of the crime, then that's something that catches people's attention.
A Hollywood production designed to draw suspects out of hiding and
Robert, yeah, I'm Lewis.
the dramatic confrontation that follows.
Just